welcome to another episode of PRGirl Talk, where we try our best to talk about all the, like fun, hot, but also important topics, of what's going on today. This is a really exciting episode because we have our first guest, another PR girl that is new to the PR Girl family. Everybody, welcome Gisele Smith. Nice to have you.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. I can't believe I'm the first guest. Very honored.
Yes, we loved you from the beginning. Your Instagram is so fun. It's at Gisele_Smith. And you are also the co-host of a really fun, actually hilarious, I listened to, I think, your latest episode podcast called I'm Screaming, right?
Yes.
Yes. So welcome, like I said. I'll give the audience a little background on you. So you're a fashion and beauty publicist at a PR firm called Small Girl PR out of New York, right?
Yes.
Okay, so before we get into today's topic, and I'll introduce that to the audience in a second, just tell us a little bit about your background, how you got to Small Girl, and maybe what you guys focus on there.
Yeah, so I've been in New York for the last 3 years, obviously working at Small Girls on the fashion beauty team. I come from Arizona, where I was born and raised, went to the University of Arizona, majored in journalism, minored in business administration, but kind of always had a more fashion slant to what I was doing. So like my senior thesis had to do with diversity inclusion in the fashion industry. So I always kind of wanted to go into that lane when I started my career. And it took me all of my senior year to find a job because when you don't live in New York, it's extremely difficult to get people to pay attention to you. So I applied all of my senior year and then decided to pivot instead of full-time jobs right off the bat to fellowships and internships. So I found Small Girls on internqueen.com in April of my senior year. I applied and kind of put all of my eggs in that basket and hope for the best. It ended up working out. And I found out I had the fellowship a week before I graduated. So once again, don't give up, keep applying. And I've been there ever since. I've worked on different clients such as Betsy Johnson, Outdoor Voices, Majuri, Olay, Billy. So lots of things in the fashion and beauty space. But my personal passion, as I said before, is diversity and inclusion, making sure all of our campaigns, pitches, people we work with fall into that bracket. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Oh yeah, now I'm a senior account executive. So.
Oh, no big deal. No, that's awesome. That's actually a very similar story of yours, Fallon. Like, the way that you found your first job out of school or while you were still in school, really, and like really applying yourself and like taking internship and like turning it into a full-time position that's sort of like carved around you. Like that is literally what Fallon did.
Had a little flashback looking through your LinkedIn experience. But I can't say that I was freelance writing for Stylecaster. I have to like throw that into, I'm super impressed by that.
Thank you.
That's major. You're just crushing it. But no, it's cool to see like similar journeys because I think in terms of like staying somewhere and building yourself up the ladder proves so much, loyalty, but it's also really special to be part of a company and a brand that really becomes like family to you, and it kind of merges your personal goals and your professional goals, and it's a really special experience to have.
Totally. No, I've been really grateful to be there for so long, and it's weird to think that I've like had 5 positions there in like 3 years, which is wild, but also, yeah, Stylecaster has been cool. And I do appreciate being able to like do PR, which I love, but also, like I said, I was a journalism major, so writing is also fun for me. And I actually met the girl who I like work with at Stylecaster through PR stuff. And so like, not only do I get to do that, but we also like talk about clients, and now we're actually friends. So it has been very cool, the whole journey so far.
Well, congratulations and bask in it.
Thank you.
Totally. Well, I couldn't be more excited about today's topic. It's actually one of PR Girl as a whole. Like it's one of our favorite topics because I think all of us have, and I can't wait to hear your personal story around this, Gisele, but all of us have talked about our personal journeys and feelings around mental health how important it is to us to take care of that, how we all go to therapy, how much we value that experience in our life, and we think of it no different than like going to yoga or eating well or all the different things that we have to do as humans to really be the best balanced version of ourselves. So I thought it would be cool, especially with everything going on right now, right? Like, I think it's super hard to maintain all of these healthy habits that might have been easier before Corona, right? Where it's harder to just do everything, like eat better, maybe not drink as much wine. I know my wine intake has increased, right? It's like all of these things. So I just wanted to talk about mental health and have another open, honest conversation, and maybe have it be something positive, you know, for people watching. So I wanted to start with the fact that, you know, as a society, I don't feel like, I know for me, all the information that I've ever learned about mental health has come from me either actively doing research on my own or understanding it or asking questions or having conversations like this, you know, with girlfriends or people that I know. Um, I'm curious to know from each of you, and we'll start with you, Gisele, like what what has been your journey to even understanding what mental health really is, right? Because it's not taught in school. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't learn about any of this in school. So what's been your personal journey on the path of just educating yourself around mental health and what it is and how important it is?
Yeah, I mean, I love this topic and I love this question too. I think, as everyone, my journey to getting where I am today is obviously still growing, but it's been something that, especially over the last couple of years, I have really thought about, because one thing is, like, no matter how happy someone seems on social media, no matter what's going on, like, there's always a lot of work to be done behind the scenes as well. And I think really for me, it's been investing in myself and also understanding who I am as a person, especially a Black woman. In, you know, America is really important to me. Like I said, I was from Arizona, so in most of my classes throughout, you know, preschool to graduating college, I was one of the only Black women ever. So first of all, that takes a big toll on your mental health in your body image, but also in the way you view yourself, and kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis. It's always something you think about. So for me, that's been like the most important thing when it comes to my mental health journey, is like coming to terms with who I am in my identity. It's super important to me. So I think recently moving to New York, honestly, has been a big proponent in like getting to know who I am and seeing that there's more people like me, and also understanding that it's okay to be different. I'm an only child, so I'm in my head a lot. I'm constantly thinking. I am always just like going through so many things in my head. But yeah, I've also really started looking into therapy, especially this year. That was one of my 2020 goals, just to talk more about identity and who I am and how I fit into this whole thing and not overthink everything. But yeah, I think therapy is super important, and also just taking time for yourself has been super helpful for me. And also, me and my friends have called this the summer of tears, because we have so many,
Amen, sister.
yeah, we have so many deep chats about life. And also, I'm extremely single. So I'm like, am I ever going to find love? We're in a pandemic. Like, I can't do these dating apps. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I've been really lucky to have select people in my life that have allowed me to just go on rants and cry and figure it out, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I love that you say you're extremely single. That's funny. Not like a little bit single, like extremely single.
Extremely.
Fallon, what about you? I think I know a little bit of this answer, but for the broader audience, like, what's been your personal journey?
Totally. Well, first and foremost, I want to say, Gisele, you're not alone. Like, my friends and I have also subscribed to the Summer of Tears.
Yes.
And Farissa, a lot of wine has been linked to that. So I'm right there with you girls. In terms of just like mental health journey, I feel like I've been like a pretty early advocate of mental health support and the system, you know, dating back to honestly probably like a generation of being a child of divorce. Really early, you know, on in my life, early high school years, I was told to start seeing like a counselor to help go through this new situation, which was my family splitting up. And as the oldest child of 4, I carried a lot of weight in terms of like just my siblings and their feelings and their emotions and what they were going through. And I was like immediately turned off. I was like, I'm not seeing a counselor. I'm not talking to a therapist. Like, I'm not doing it. But I think my sisters and my brother should, right? So it was almost like this immediate motherly approach of like, I feel like this is the right thing for people to do going through this, but I could never do this for myself. And I didn't seek help right away. And actually my sisters and my brother started seeing someone. So everyone was kind of getting this support, and like, I was super against it. Now, fast forward like 12, 15 years, and I definitely had started seeing someone and now unhashing a lot of issues that I probably could have dealt with like a decade ago. I don't know what that mind shift was for me. At first, it was almost like a pride thing. It wasn't like totally accepted. I didn't know a lot of people that were getting help or seeing a therapist. And then, you started seeing the rest of the world start opening up about mental health over the last decade, and how, this is something good. This isn't something to be embarrassed about. This is something to embrace and help you through your journey of life, because everyone's going through their own struggles. And I think now my stance is like, we all check in with the doctor, right? We all have to like have our physical exams. I think the mental health piece is just as, if not more important. And also, you'll see on the show, or at least Farissa knows, like a lot of my, physical health and mental health, I feel like are very linked. Like I carry the majority of my stress in my gut. I've learned I have tons of gut issues, and I've had to like sort of now merge that mental health and that physical health piece. So I'm a big proponent for it. I think it's at the core of wellness, and seeking out, if you're not ready for that therapist, like I wasn't right away, at least family members or people in your circle of trust to talk to, or maybe it is just meditation and books to start, but it's totally something to be proud of, to embrace, and to really prioritize.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think really quickly for me, growing up in a really Christian, strict household, the answer to everything was like pray and look at the Bible. And no offense to people who believe that is a way, because completely yes, but not exclusively. And as I've grown into being my own woman and kind of creating my own spirituality and my own ability to, take care of myself, which as a child, I never really subscribed to my parents' way of being anyway. I always knew that. Like, I always knew there was something else. There was other things that I would subscribe to as I got older. I just didn't know what they were until I was introduced to them. But even I was a little bit like Fallon too. Like, even once I grew up and knew about these other options, I was like, oh, well, I'm not like the type of person who needs therapy. Like, that's what other people do. But kudos to them. But then you start to, I think, evolve and mature, and then understand that no, it's not, that's like saying that other people eat vegetables and like good for them. No, people who eat vegetables are just healthier people in general, right? It's the same thing for, taking care of yourself mentally. And one way of doing that, like you said, is seeing a therapist, or depending on what you're going through, medication. And that really is part of this question I have around education around this, because mental health is a very broad topic, right? And even in my research for this conversation, I found a list of all of the different types of potential mental health disorders. And I was like, we're not even talking about all of these things as separate things, because they're all very different. For example, anxiety disorders, depression, bipolar, an eating disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, like, there's so many different things that people could be going through. And I'm just wondering why, we're not talking about it as a society as it pertains to the people. And this conversation came up when Kanye was kind of going through his, what should we call it, public display of his mental disorder, right? And I remember reading from the sidelines, like everybody else, like, what's going on, thinking, okay, I agree with the folks who have an issue with the country, with everyone kind of making fun of Kanye, because we're so pro mental health and like taking care of people who have mental health and take care of ourselves. But then when someone is actually displaying, a mental health disorder in front of our face, the compassion was completely gone. And I did not understand why they couldn't see the human in Kanye, you know, albeit he's Kanye, right? But put all of that to the side. This is a human being who's suffering. Where was the compassion for this man? And I wonder what you guys, especially with your podcast and all the talk that you guys do about celebrities, did you guys cover this topic, or just as a person, what do you think about it, Gisele?
Yeah, definitely. Kanye has come up on the podcast. We record every week, many weeks. And I think I love that you listed out so many different ways that people can experience mental health disorders and things like that. I think anxiety is a huge one for me. And I've also had friends who have had, you know, eating disorders and bipolar disorder and different things like that. And I think one thing that's helped me, which is I a lot of times was a rock for that person, and I was acknowledging it and also saying, like, this is something that you can get help for, so let's do that. And I think with Kanye, it's so sad because, like, he's revered as such a genius in the music industry, and everyone wants to say that, like, geniuses just, this is what geniuses do. You know what I mean? It's kind of what people pawn off CEOs similarly. They're like CEOs and these kind of people, that's part of their creative process. But it's like, we need to acknowledge and understand that this is not behavior that should be celebrated. And also it's something that we can get help for. It's like, imagine if Kanye, if Kim, if any of the people in Kanye's life did something about it and spoke out about mental health and took a second to stand back and realize that this is bigger than themselves. And I think it's hard with the family, the Kardashian family with Kanye. Everything's a ploy to make money. You know, everything's something like, it's gamifying mental health in this way that's so detrimental to society. And you see people saying, like, pray for Kanye. It becomes a hashtag. And now mental health is becoming not something that's actually being talked about and helped. It's just like, pray for Kanye, sweep it to the side. I'll listen to his album when it comes out. But, like, what if we took a step back and actually acknowledged that this is something that's happening and didn't just like tweets and make fun of tweets? Also, I think, I mean, he's doing a lot of this on Twitter. Like, should there be Twitter guidelines talking about what can be said on their platform, what comments can be said? Should they be flagging things? I don't know. I think it is hard because he is such a big person in the world, but it needs to be talked about. And also, I think the way that the people around him are handling it is not helpful at all.
Yeah, to that point, I, you know, everyone who knows me knows that I'm obsessed with the momager of that family, and not as a fan, but as a businesswoman. Like, the way that Kris Jenner handles the whole Kardashian clan situation, there could be a whole class, like, I think, you know, there might already be, I don't know, in school around her methodology. But to your point, I think there is this mental hesitation that everyone has, like, how much of this is actually real, and not like Kanye's mental disorder, but just the whole display of it, I guess, you know, because there is so much calculation that goes into everything that they do, even the things that they try to make seem kind of effortless. And, you know, so the fact that they've all been pretty silent, besides Kim's, you know, little letter on Instagram, means that they're sitting down and they're trying to think and be strategic about how this doesn't affect the family's money. That's just what I think. And it's like, to your point, they should just be talking about the reality of it all and not saving it for the next season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Fallon, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you know, totally retweet what both of you guys said. I think that, to your point, it's like the display is can often, you know, be seen en masse as like potential like entertainment, or what journey are you taking us on in terms of like receiving this content, because there's this like automatic separation between celebrities and the rest of society. However, we all have this, you know, very similar thing going on up here. So how do you bridge that gap and make it more relatable or understood? I think, you know, it's like we look at, I remember like a Selena Gomez or a Demi Lovato, like other really influential entertainers that I idolized and looked up to during like my teen years. and all of a sudden they're going to rehab, and what does that mean? And the headlines are just so harsh and so dark and so unapproachable and not relatable. And even people like Taylor Swift who disappear for a while, or a Britney Spears, and it's like, these are like girls who I looked up to my entire life, and now I'm like kind of trained to think that they're going crazy, or there's something wrong with them, or there's something happening in their head and they have to go seek help, and that's not okay, and they're having a downfall, right? But like, now we start to realize as we get older and we all experience these things and have more confidence to talk about them, that this is normal, and there has to be a way that we like bridge the gaps with these people we look up to, are the biggest influencers and the people that we try to relate or try to connect with through social media, that have these crazy followings, and all of these children and teenagers that are just like watching their every move. Like, how do we shift that messaging so that it becomes more of an educational piece, rather than this just like kind of dark, unknown topic.
Yeah, and I was wondering too, like, do you guys think it's helpful to the mental health conversation that all these celebrities that we actually know, that, the list that you just made, Fallon, like, we're all very familiar with all of those ladies, all of their stories, all of their, Kanye moments, if you will, playing out in the press, especially Britney, right? Like, she's had a horrible, I even back then, I mean, the whole, year that she shaved her head and the whole thing, it's like, I was just, again, seeing the human, seeing the woman that was obviously going through something, right? And that display is all that we were seeing. We still don't know to this day, 100% of what was going on in her life. But I guess my real question is it helping or hurting the overall conversation that the biggest mental health examples that we have come from celebrities, right? And it's kind of built into their narrative and their fame and their money and all of that, instead of just kind of focused on mental health.
Yeah, I mean, the people you listed, I feel like I have conversations about all the time. Demi Lovato has always been like one of my favorite celebrities, and watching her journey has been wild and insane. But also I do feel like now, as she's coming out of it, she is starting to talk more about mental health and talk about her bipolar disorder that caused her to go and do a lot of the things she did in the past. But Britney, I think, is, for me, one of the main people, other than Kanye, that this conversation is revolving around. And we talked about this on our podcast too. And like, we had an episode really that was like, we should be checking up on Britney Spears, because one thing that I've been like, have not sitting right with is like, I go on her page, and as we've all seen the videos of her burning down her gym, her talking in this voice, her not being able to see her kids, and I see people comment and they're like, queen of burning down her gym, or like queen of walking back and forth. And it's like, I find such like dissonance with that, because I'm like, yes, she's an entertainer, but then I remember Diet Prada posted about her conservatorship with her dad, and how she doesn't have any, claim to her kids, to her fortune, to all of these things. And that's such a big proponent of why she is the way she is. And now a little bit of the conversation around Britney is shifting to this mental health, but like, it took understanding what happened behind the scenes for people to talk about it. It's like, yes, Britney's an entertainer, but she's also a person. So like, let's talk about what's going on and not just make everything a joke, because mental health isn't a joke, So it's hard, because I do think that like, yes, we allow them to do what they want to do, but like, at a point, unless they're going to actually acknowledge what is going on behind the scenes, then it's more helpful, and it can help a lot of people. But if it's not, then it just, to me, is super detrimental to the whole conversation.
Yeah. What do you think, Fallon?
Yeah, maybe we need like a talk show, but the topics are all mental health. So these celebrities have to come on and like talk about what's going on up there, not what's going on the red carpet.
That's an idea.
Yes.
And then I also think, Farissa, to your point, it's like, right, these examples that are being shared to the public are all coming from very, highly known and famous figures in our society. So where's the relatability factor? Like, I think I read a meme the other day, and I can't remember exactly what it said. But it was like, what about, instead of like interviewing and showcasing all these like celebrities on mainstream media, what if we just took average people who are actually walking the walk of what's going on in our society day to day? Like, how interesting would that be to just start gathering different like opinions and outlooks? Like we're literally only looking at a very small percentage of people that are affected by these mental illness topics that we're talking about. So yeah, there's definitely a disconnect in terms of who and how. So I think again, we just need to like figure out how to bridge that gap. And I feel like we're getting there. Like we're becoming more comfortable talking about these things. Like it's no longer like, oh, it's Britney Spears. I'm watching her. I'm going to comment on these silly things. Oh, wait a second. Take a step back. She's a person. There's something going on there. Let's look into it. I mean, I think if we are allowed to like have this vantage point into these celebrities' lives through things like Twitter and Instagram, which didn't exist, 15, 20 years ago, where they were actually able to have their private lives, then they also deserve, and like I think we deserve to know a little bit more about what they're feeling and thinking behind the scenes and the rawness of it, because that's the relatability and how we can all kind of connect together.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with both of you guys. I think that there's a piece of it too that's unfortunate that is an entertainment value as well, right? So in spite of like Gisele, when you said Britney, the queen of walking back and forth, like all I can see is literally, because I follow her, and I watch those videos going like, what is she doing? What is she doing? And who is purposefully asking for more of that type of content? Mm-hmm. Like if you're a Britney Spears fan, then you want to see Britney Spears doing fun, entertaining. You want her to see her dancing, you want to see her singing, like you want to see her living her life, but doing something so random, I think instead of immediately seeing it as entertainment value, I think we should all be asking ourselves more questions, right? Because we're not looking at fake characters. These are, to your point, real people. And even with Kanye, it's like the conversation, him saying he wants to run for president and getting up and doing this speech is like, I don't know anyone who's taking him seriously, about running for president. But now you're on stage and you're entertaining a crowd, and then thus the world, because it's being filmed and everyone's going to see it. And again, if we could just strip that entertainment piece out of it, celebrity or not, and just watch them as people and react to them as caring, compassionate humans to another caring, compassionate human, I think we'll be starting somewhere. But in our society, there's too many, caste levels, right? So like celebrity, no matter if you're poor and addicted to drugs and, whatever, the worst case scenario, you're famous. So you must be better than the rest of us. And it's like, no, guys, can we not think that way? Because, something could happen that makes us all famous tomorrow. But if it's for something good and positive, then that's great. But if it's for something, and I keep going back to the Kardashians, but it's like, if it's for like, because you had sex on camera, that's not positive, right? So I don't know the answer. Like, I don't know the fix, but I see if we could strip the entertainment piece out of it a little bit, maybe we would be walking in the right direction.
Yeah. I even think like with COVID at least happening and kind of all of us, not only just like regular people, but celebrities having to be at home for the last 3 months. Like I even felt a little bit like this disconnected me from this idea of celebrity, because like while COVID was going on, like I didn't need to see them at their mansion, still having perfectly done hair, perfectly done nails, at their pools, traveling. I was like, this isn't real life. Like I felt myself shifting more to like my friends who were talking about, like, it's okay that we haven't done anything during COVID. It's okay that like getting up to go to work is hard. It's okay that these things weigh on you, because we're living and working through a global pandemic, which there's no manual or rule book to tell you how to do that. And I think that's been like one of the things that me and my friends have been really harping on and instilling in each other is like, if it's hard to get up today, it's okay. Like you got up and you made it and you did your job as well as good as you could today, and that's fine. So I think even for me, like I've been finding myself gravitating more towards like regular people or more activists, or just like that's kind of who my content and who I've like liked to subscribe to and repost has been, because celebrities are just seeming so out of touch even more than like usual.
Yeah. And I think there was this big reality check that no amount of money can get you a ticket out of this thing. Like,
Yeah.
We're all in this.
Yeah. I love that you guys brought that up, because that's something that I've been talking to a lot of people about, where there has never been a time in our lifetime where we can all say we have all, no matter who we are, what color we are, what size we are, what country we're from, have experienced the same thing at the same time. And it has brought, I guess, depending on how you look at life, it has either brought you to a place of humility, right? And understanding about the important things in life. Or for some folks, it's a scary, it's a scary realization. For others, it could feel, different. But for me, my household, a lot of the people that I surround myself with, it's been this kind of a restart, right? If life is a game and we're playing Monopoly, it's like everyone just got sent back to start, and it's up to everyone to figure out what kind of game in life do you want to play now. And whether, again, you're Beyonce or you're, little old me in Chicago, you can now, we're all starting from the same place, here and here, right? And that's really cool. Like, I think that that's one of the positives that's come out of this time, where we're all in the same place. And it's exposed some of the uglier parts of our society as well, that a lot of us have already known about, but now it's impossible to hide, because we can't hide behind red carpets. We can't hide behind crazy events that are happening and being at home, but watching everybody else go do other things. It's like, no, everyone is at home, but you get to see how people handle themselves differently in a crisis like this. So it's been really cool. I think one question I wanted to pose to you guys around mental health is, it has a different connotation in different groups in society, right? So all I know in the Black community, for a lot of folks, going to therapy is looked at as a sign of weakness, or honestly, what white people do. I don't know where that came from. I'm curious, in different groups, like, just for you, Fallon, was there a stigma before as a group, not your family, but just like, group wise? And Gisele, for you, what has been your experience, like when you tell people in your other inner circles, right? Mm-hmm. That you're doing this and how seriously you take it. What's been your experience in that?
So the one conversation that sticks out to me is one of my closest friends, who I do not see enough, maybe once every year or every 2 years, who lives in Italy, Andrea. We met in high school. I remember going through this, family divorce and talking to her about therapy, and she had a really similar situation. Her parents split up young. She had to move around the country, and she just had a lot going on. We were able to totally relate on a lot of topics. However, she was if I mentioned to my mom that I wanted to seek a therapist, I feel like I'd get in so much trouble. She's to even admit that I have something going on in my head, is a huge sign of weakness. And it's just my mom would never take me seriously. That's not accepted. If you have, and I wish my sister Danielle's usually crashing at my place, and she's not right now because she's a special ed teacher and has the language nailed. But it's mental wellness, which is what I'm talking about, and mental illness, which is the cognitive and the psychological, come on, y'all, get with me, but to actually have these behavioral disabilities, I think is the term, are different. And her family, Andrea's family, associates that as the same thing. So if you are feeling depressed, you got it, that's the equivalent of wanting to go to a psych ward, essentially, right? So there's not enough information flushed out. that it's sort of like this island, like you better be doing well or at least pretend like you are, like don't even showcase symptoms there's something going on in your head that's upsetting you or, you know, dragging you through
yeah, it's like the difference between going to the doctor, like a well visit, like just to get, you know, your annual exam. You're not saying you have an STD. You're just going to make sure everything is healthy on the inside, right? But to your point, Fallon, in a lot of families, there is no separation between a well visit and I'm sick, something's wrong with me. And it's like, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience, Gisele, or what has your experience been?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with especially the stigma around mental health in the Black community, that I do think that there's always been this idea that you know, showing any kind of weakness is like what you shouldn't do, you know? And I think for me, totally agree, Fallon, with the idea of mental wellness, because personally, my grandma, my mom's mom, lives with my parents and has for like a majority of my life. So when I was in Arizona, she lived with us. And like, I'm currently now like watching her obviously get older and I'm far away, but I talk to my mom on a regular basis, and there's a lot of undiagnosed and also untreated mental issues that as a child, I mean, I can't even imagine growing up in the 40s. Like, I can't even imagine what that does to your mental health. And I'm watching a lot of these things kind of resurge in her older age because it wasn't treated. And also talking to my grandma about it now, you know, when I'm like, hey, you know, Mama, maybe you should like go check this out, talk to someone, let's talk about it. It's very much like, just I don't need to do that. Like you know, it's still that stigma. And I'm obviously someone who cares about her greatly, but still to her, it's like, it's not something you talk about, you know? And it's funny because when I talk to my friends in New York here, if I was like, because I was talking to them originally in 2020, I was like, guys, I think I want to go to therapy just like as a wellness thing. And also it's important for me to show someone with a quote unquote, you know, happy life that like that's something that you can also still work on. And when I told them, they're like, yes, girl, we love that for you, like that's amazing. And then I talked to like people back home or like my family about it, and they're like, why would you do that? I don't understand, what's wrong? And it's like, it's not even always about something wrong, it's just about, you know, making sure that it doesn't get bad, you know what I mean? Or like also addressing things that like you maybe don't want to talk to people in your life about. So I think watching my grandma kind of go through these like resurgence of not treating a lot of mental issues and not caring about mental wellness early in her life has really spurred on my want to address things at 25 and continue to do them, because every year something new comes up. I mean, how many years is it going to take for all of us to unpack, you know, COVID in our lives and how it's affected us?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of we kind of covered it, right? But I like literally made a note to myself to go, I mean, make sure we all acknowledge that we are currently living through a time that is having an effect, whether we are aware of it or not, whether it's positive or negative or neutral, on our mental well-being right now in real time. And we don't know what the effects are going to be, just like they don't know what the physical effects are going to be of folks who have had it and survived and are now, you know, fine. So yeah, I would say to the broader audience listening who is kind of in our boat, where we're all of a generation where we can acknowledge and proudly say that we are stepping away from like an old school mentality of thinking about this. It's definitely a generational thing for a lot of groups. And that if you're experiencing that, just do your best to kind of push forward, because it's our job as individuals to take what we want and what we can from the people who raised us and created us and molded us, and then build upon that and do more, right? And evolve into the next versions of ourselves that we want to be real, not just what we think is real because of what, you know, we've been taught in the past. Anyway, so we'll wrap up in a second, but I think that because we are, you know, very work focused here, and I like to make a point to let everyone, you know, have an opportunity to talk about professional perspective, right? Because this is, you know, we're proud women who have professions and work hard and work to be independent. So I wonder what businesses or corporations or just places of work, what, in you guys' opinion, what they should be doing or what you have seen companies do to help aid this topic of conversation on, right, for their employees. So like, what are some things that businesses should or that you've seen are doing to help their employees either live a more healthier, well-balanced mental, health situation or deal with an employee who has a mental health illness?
Yeah. I really love this question too. I think there's things I think companies should do. And I also think I've had experiences, some things that I've been grateful for recently, but I think the number one thing is the idea of mental health days. People joke about it, but like, let's normalize saying something to your boss as like, hi, I need to take a day because I'm not in the right headspace. And like, that should be okay. I think there's a stigma around that because it's not a sick day. It's not the same. It's like a mental health day. It's okay to wake up like one day and just not have it, because all in all, if you go to work and your mental health is like not it that day, you're not going to be the best employee anyway. And also if employers acknowledge the fact that you need this, and also not everyone's okay all the time, imagine how better of an employee they will be in the whole, so I think, normalizing the idea of taking mental health days is important. Also, providing your employees with like the funds to be able to go to therapy, having that be under your coverage for your insurance is super important. I know for me, one thing that I've been grateful for, especially in the last month or two with, the resurgence and kind of the Black Lives Matter movement being at the forefront of every conversation and also work, the first couple of weeks, it was hard, and it was hard to go to work every day. It was hard. As much as I love my job, it was hard to pitch, razors. It was hard to pitch clothes when, people were dying, and it's such an important conversation. And I went to my bosses and they also came to me and like, they acknowledged it. I was like, you know what? I need an hour. I need to go sit in my room and call my mother and cry. Like, I need to talk about this. And I was very lucky that my bosses acknowledged that, and also knew that it wasn't me trying to scam them. I wasn't trying to get out of work. I just like needed time to process what was going on. And I think people acknowledging people as just real people with flaws, with issues, with things going on is so important. Like, yes, it's your place of employment, and yes, it's your job, but like also we're all people, and like we want to do the best work we can, but we're not 100 all the time. So I've been really appreciative of being able to have those conversations with my place of work too.
That's awesome. Fallon, what have you seen maybe some of your clients do, or even, or what would you wish businesses do?
Yeah, I think wish is going to be the key word, because I'm sitting here listening to Gisele, I'm like, subscribe. Why is New York always ahead of Chicago? Like, everything you're saying, like, I'm soaking kind of in for the first time, because I'll be honest, I have a really hard time taking mental wellness days, mental health days, personal days. Like, I barely take time off. I work too much. I know a lot of us say that. I'm not proud of that. I used to be proud of that. I used to be proud of the fact that I slept for 4 hours and I had, a 12, 13-hour day at work. But now I'm seeing the mental toll it's taking. And I think, for the past decade of my professional career, that was like the cool thing to say. And it was like trendy to overwork. And 2020 has pushed me to the limit of, I don't care like how habitual that was for me. No longer. Like, I've been through so much that it's like, no, I physically cannot do this today. Right. And I have shared some hardships that I've been going through on our last episode with the loss of my younger brother, which has been the hardest thing I've ever gone through, and has actually shut me down to days where I'm like, it's just impossible. Like, it's off, the switch is off, but I'm still having such a tough time to like have the confidence to say, and I'm a big proponent of this, like Gisele's speaking, and I'm like, everyone should be listening to this conversation and subscribing to that. But me, myself, I can't admit that I'm like 100% there yet. I still like have the mindset of it's work. Like, you are lucky to have this job. You need this money in your bank account. This is like, it's got to get done by 5 o'clock. It's true that it doesn't. What you said is so true. You're not in the right mental space to get your best work done anyway. Like, but I'm so addicted to my deadlines that this is something that I totally need to work on. So one of my clients, who is now I spend a lot of my time with, and I'm on the team at Vital Proteins, I think does a fantastic job of this for their
like their full-time
employees
staff,
and the
yeah.
culture. So there are so many amazing wellness benefits there. For one, they have a meditation room at headquarters. For two, there are plenty of wellness days and work from home days, and they are super flexible in terms of like taking time off. And their kind of manifesto is just get the job done. Like, I don't care when or where. I mean, I remember starting there and it would take everyone like 30 minutes to get acclimated, go downstairs, get their coffee from the barista, have a snack, say hi to everyone. I'm like, hello, it is 9:01, people, get on your computer. Like, I'm so regimented in that way. But what I watched over the past year, because it's almost been a year working with them, is that is how culture is built in a company. And the like amount of passion and dedication people have to do their job well, right? And like creatively and inspirationally, and they're at the forefront of innovation, but they take time for themselves. And they ask each other how they're doing, and they the CEO like is making sure to instill that wellness piece into the climate. So I think that that's been really cool and definitely helped shift me slowly. But I'm not like there yet in terms of being confident enough to walk in and ask for that. Like, I'll ask myself 10 times, should I even be asking for the day off? But I think the more we talk about this and we have conversations, it's like helpful to people like me who are still regimented in their ways. So.
Yep.
Thank
well,
you.
That's why I totally appreciate your honest answer to that question, Fallon, because it is true. Like, there's a lot of us, and I'm probably somewhere in the middle of the two of you, right? Where there's a lot of us who know the importance of everything that we're talking about right now, and that we deserve it, and that it's not selfish to ask for a day or a moment. And I'm speaking as a mom too, where your kids are on you all the time, and I'm a busy CEO of 2 companies, and I have all this stuff going on. And I remember hitting a point where I was like, mommy needs a moment. Like, I'm literally trying to pee right now and solve 3 of your problems at the same time. I think I deserve to pee in peace. And it was that like realization that me asking my kids to leave the bathroom, close the door behind you, and don't come back in here until I open the door. And I don't care how long it takes. What is not a selfish ask on my part. And that's a personal, like, at home example, but that can and should, you know, kind of bleed into our professional lives, where, like, I'm lucky, I'm my own boss, so I don't have anyone to blame but myself, you know, for not having vacation days or not, you know, taking moments to just check out. But this time has taught me, like, to your point, Fallon, how important it is and how I don't have to be on all the time. And for the people who think of that as a strength, it's like, no, you're still wearing away at something, even if you're strong, right? If you're a strong runner and you run 20 miles a day, your knees are going to suffer for that, right? And it's that same balance. So I fall in the middle of you guys, where I do, maybe I take more moments throughout the day to try to check in with myself and make sure everything's okay, and really just breathe, right? It's just about stopping everything and breathing, even if it's for like 3 minutes, and then going back into real life.
I really love, I just really love both of your answers too, because, and I'm like obviously thinking as you guys are talking too, and that's totally so, I think about if this had happened, the situation happened when I started at Small Girls 3 years ago, and if I would be able to have the same confidence to say that I need a moment than like when I've basically built my career at one place, you know? Because I think now, obviously, this place is like my family, kind of. I've been here, they know me, they know that I'm going to get my work done. But also, it's so important. Like, I love what you guys are saying, too, because, like, it's easier to do that when you feel like you have a strong foundation somewhere. But if I had just started a job, like what you were saying, Fallon, like, I am lucky to get a paycheck during this crazy time. And, like, you don't want to do anything to, you know, hinder that as well. So it's like, it is important to try to find a happy medium of owning that confidence to be able to say these things, but also acknowledging that, like, it's not as easy to stomp in somewhere and say, I need this time, you know?
And to culture too, because, you know, I think what you're describing, Gisele, is that Small Girls PR has a fantastic culture, like, as a company. So that has added to your confidence in being able to ask for things that maybe at another place would be, you know, looked at as negative or laughed at, or or looked at as a weakness from the top, right? So it really starts from the top and how the folks in charge view these things. At my office, right before we went into quarantine, I had created, well, we always had a mother's room, and people would come in and be like, oh my God, you guys have a mother's room? And it's like, why are you surprised? The CEO of the company is a woman, a wife, and a mother of two. And I work hard. So I know what it feels like to be in an office and not have a space when you're returning to work and your breasts are filled with milk and your options are the bathroom or a closet. So why would I let that be the situation that I allow my female executives to come back to? That's ridiculous, right? But a lot of the guys who come through, they were like, I would never think of that. And I'm like, of course you would never think of that. Have you ever been pregnant? Have you ever pushed out a child from your vagina? Like, why would you, have that thought? And then so, what'd you say, Fallon?
No, I don't want to cut you off, but I have a comment.
Okay, we'll circle back because I want to, so the last bit of that is that, so that room has transitioned now into a tranquility room, right? So it's not just a mother's room. It's a room now that has a reclining chair that, and a nice little throw blanket on it. And you can go in there, have some time to yourself. If you need a nap, take it. If you need a minute, take it. If you need to pump, do it. Like I planned on having a napopathy, which I'll go into in the comments. Like, I'll let people know what that is. Like, be able to come in and like do like physical therapeutic work on staff members. But then Corona hit and then everyone started working from home. So I'm like excited for one day to be able to have that as part of the ever evolving culture that I've created, in my office. But go ahead, Fallon.
No, I was just going to say what this conversation is making me realize is that, like, Farissa, that's fantastic. Like, I love hearing about this. I want to visit the Tranquility Wellness Mother's Room. But I think every office should have one. However, they don't, right? Because that's not a regulation. That's not normalized. But where that stems from is like the values of the people at the top and the people in charge. So I think that in terms of sick days, like, I would much rather, if I'm having a bad day, I'm calling in and saying, hey, I got, not the flu or the cold, like during Corona, right, but I got X, Y, and Z physically going on, so I can't come in. Like, that's an easier bridge for me than saying I need a wellness day, right? But it shouldn't be. So how do we kind of bridge that? Because we have these standards in place at every corporation in terms of physical health. But the mental health piece, that starts with the people at the top and in charge. Unfortunately, it's not regulated for everyone. So I think also, I know there's a lot of aspiring publicists and recent grads who are just starting their career journey, like, beyond looking into like the company that you think you want to be at, because in 2020, for one, a lot of filters have come down and we've seen a lot of behind the scenes about the way that people in charge are treating the people that work for them and how they feel about the customers, the people purchasing their product, who physically are representing them in campaigns. And there's been like a lot of nasty, dirty laundry aired. That it is just as important as these company and brands that you see on Instagram that you want to work for. Who are the people behind them? I think that's like another step of research that we should be thinking about, because that's all we have control over. And like, believe in the CEOs and the people in power and who are running these companies that you want to work for, because that's going to affect your own personal wellness. And I think the confidence is like the word we keep using. I feel like there's probably a better word for it. I know I use that, but it's not about, it's just like the right to walk into your employer's office and say, I need this day, right?
Yeah. You always come with the amazing advice for the young professionals, Fallon. Seriously, that is probably more important than being able to negotiate your starting salary. Like, honestly, doing research to understand how this company feels about mental health and just wellness overall, and how you incorporate that into your day-to-day flow as a professional. If they have feelings, positive or negative about it, you'll be able to find out, even just from visiting the office for your interview, right? Or just, there's so many different ways to go about it. So yeah, that's key, guys. I would be remiss before we wrap just to give Michelle Obama a shout out for telling the world that she was a little bit depressed during this time. because it was, for me, just another example of a fantastic, strong, powerful woman who happens to be Black and the first Black First Lady of the United States, being honest and real with people about real things. And I'll leave it there and say that I appreciate that, as if I know her personally. Like, it made me feel like, oh, thank you, Michelle, for just doing that. So as we wrap up, I want to give Gisele and you, Fallon, an opportunity to just let people know what's up, right? Like, when's the next episode of your podcast coming out? What do you want people to do? Follow you on Instagram. Fallon, let us know what's going on. We'll start with Gisele.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you guys. This conversation has been so good and just like makes my heart happy to talk about this. But yes, please follow me on Instagram, Gisele_Milan. There's lots of fashion stuff, work stuff. We get real, lots of me talking to you in a headscarf, all those things. But also please follow I'm Screaming Pod. That's a podcast where we talk about pop culture, and it's the intersection between celebrity and culture and how it affects us every day. My co-host Meg is incredible, and we are also friends in real life who have these conversations all the time. So it's really just an hour of us, what we usually talk about. But yeah, that's kind of me. Follow if you have any if you want career advice, want to talk to me about small girls, working in New York, any of that kind of stuff. I love a Zoom chat, always here to talk to anyone. I get what it's like to be young and feel like you can't talk to anyone. So that's kind of my piece.
Awesome. Fallon, last word?
Yeah, the last episode I said I was going to be taking more time for myself and just slow down, and I'm proud to say I've done it. So yeah, keep up. I just signed a few new clients, so I'm excited to showcase that on Insta. But Gisele, it was awesome meeting you. Loved having a new face on the show. Hope to meet you in real life someday, but I know what podcast I'll be binging over the next few weeks. So
thank you
for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you. No, this has been so fun, and it was so great to meet you both and get to chat about real things with real women, as we said, and it's been so good.
Good. I'm so glad you guys had fun. I can't wait to do this again. Gisele, when all of this is over and PRGirl is back with cameras and lights and action, maybe we'll come visit you in New York.
Yes, I would love nothing more, honestly.
Awesome. Well, ladies, have a fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy the sunny weather here in Chicago and New York.
Yes.
And I'll see you on the gram, I guess.
Good. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
So really, hello, I'm Day.